Hey everyone, please support what I do to help keep Greyhawk alive by subscribing to the channel. Also, please consider becoming a channel member to get early access to videos, exclusive live chats, quarterly adventure modules, and more. Thanks, and enjoy the show. So, I was thinking about orders of knighthood and chivalry in the world of Greyhawk, and that's what I wanted to talk about today on Greyhawk Grognard. Now, the question of orders of knighthood, orders of chivalry in the world of Greyhawk is this is a place where the living Greyhawk Gazetteer really just proliferated the lore in terms of the number of orders that are out there. Because I'm looking at the original Guide to the World of Greyhawk, and there's a whole section here. It's a small section on orders of knighthood. We have the Knights of the Shield, which is in the Shield Lands. We have the Knights of the Watch, which is Basel, Grand March, Joff, and Kaoland. We have the Order of the Hart, which is High Folk, the Vesve Forest, Furiondi, and Valuna. And that's about it that we have in that section. The Knights of the Watch are divided into three: Knights of Furiondi, Knights of Valuna, Knights of the High Forest. Okay. But other than that, I mean, there's a few other things that are mentioned in here. There's the Grand March is said to be based on a order of knighthood, but it's not named. It's named actually later in the From the Ashes box set as the Order of the March, kind of uninspiredly. But I wanted to go through these a little bit because they're very interesting, and it's very easy to slip these orders of knighthood into your game. You can have your players interacting with knights of the various orders. You could dangle membership in one of the orders as a reward for if there's a fighter or a cavalier or a ranger character that you have, something like that. There's ways to get your characters involved into the knightly orders. Knights of the Shield is, obviously the Shield Lands. Basically their origin is when the Bandit Kingdoms became, rowdier, I guess. The local lords banded together and created an order of knighthood to protect themselves against them. And later on, when Ayuz and later the Horn Society became a threat, then the Shieldlands became much more organized. They receive money and recruits from all the nearby neighboring good lands like Ernst and Furiondi and so forth. So they're very well developed. Later on, of course the Shieldlands are overrun by the Horn Society, and then later on by Ayuz. So there are not renegades, but exiled members of the Shield Knights, of the Knights of Shielding, are in the city of Greyhawk in particular. We see a lot of that in the City of Greyhawk box set. So the Knights of Shielding are very well established, but they're kind of, after the wars, they're much reduced in strength, obviously, because their home base has been taken over. Now, next up, we have the Knights of the Watch. Certain stout soldiers from Basel, Grand March, Joff, and Kaoland are there to protect the East, which is the Flanness, from incursions from the Paynims and the other Backloonish states. So basically, this is much more in line with medieval Europe, where you have like the Knights Templar and the Knights Hospitalier, which are designed to basically protect Christians against the Muslims, and that's what the function of the Knights of the the Watch is to protect the borders. They have castles in the barrier peaks. They maintain a very strong watch, basically on Ket and the Paynims and so forth. So that is very well defined in terms of its mission. And if if you're doing a campaign that is involved a lot into the Backloonish lands, then obviously, the Knights of the Watch are going to have, could potentially have a lot of impact for you. It's a bit on the nose in terms of historical analogs, but if you can overlook that, then they're a really interesting thing, especially because they're specifically designed as a defensive order against a specific threat, and they have a lot of castles and so fortifications and so forth, so there's a lot of places that PCs can visit to interact with them. Now, one interesting thing I thought about the Knights of the Watch, when you later on, after the wars and the giants have conquered the human lands to the west, there's a splinter group of the Knights of the Watch called the Knights of Dispatch, and their job is to free the human lands from the giants. So I love the fact that these things aren't immutable, that there's they do hive off and things like that. I think it gives it a little realism, as well as obviously more opportunities to do stuff in game with them. And I just wanted to remind everybody that the 10th anniversary Kickstarter for Castle Mad Archmage is going on right now. It has everything that's been published to date, as well as all of the Patreon exclusive stuff, plus the one-page dungeon level that was published. There's a bunch of new stuff in there as well. It's all been completely re-edited. Every monster has stat blocks now. So it's definitely worth getting, and you will only be able to get it during the month of July. So the link is below. Please click on it and take a look if you think you'd be interested in a really great mega dungeon. Now, next up we have the Knights of the Hart, and they're probably the best known of the orders of chivalry outside of the Shieldlands. They're centered in Furiandi and Voluna, and the High Folk and the Vesphae Forest, and they're basically, their purpose is twofold. First, they're supposed to keep Voluna and Furiandi and so forth. Basically, they're supposed to keep them good. They're supposed to keep them aligned with their mission. So they're supposed to keep them on the side of light and truth and so forth. Second, they're also supposed to be the vanguard against large-scale threats, specifically in the timeline that we're talking about. Those threats come from the Horn Society and Iuz, because we are told in here that Voluna and Furiandi have very small standing armies, and it takes them quite a while for their noble levies to get organized and get into the field. So the Knights of the Hart are there to form as a vanguard until Furiandi and Voluna have a chance to get their armies pulled together. Now, the problem is they're very small. The Knights of Furiandi, there's 200 of them. The Knights of Voluna, there's 80 of them. And the Knights of the High Forest are about 25. So we're only talking about 300 or so knights. And probably twice, and probably as many men-at-arms, that follow them. So we're only talking about 400 or 500 men to serve as this vanguard. So they have to be very, very effective in their role, which is it's kind of a dichotomy here, because they are so small in terms of numbers, but they have to be very proficient. So that means that individually each one is very powerful in game terms. But they're also one of the most well-known ones, because they have that great heraldry that's in the guide and in the original folio. Obviously, they're the ones who have the colored shields with the antlers, the deer antlers on them. They're also because they are based in Furiandi and Voluna and so forth. They have a very good chance of interacting with characters that are in around the city of Greyhawk, especially if you're going a little bit west into Divers, or even further into Verbabank and the Temple of Elemental Evil. That would sort of be within their remit. So there's a good chance that players in that central west region of the Flyness could interact with these knights. Now, joining the knights, obviously, because they are so small, is going to be a very selective process. So that would be something, once you become like a 9th or 10th level fighter or cavalier or something, that's something you can aspire to. At least that's the way I would do it. So that would be like the crowning achievement of a high level character, is to be invited to join the orders of the Order of the Heart. I think that would be really a neat thing. Now, as I said, we do have a bunch more orders that are mentioned in later products. One of the most interesting ones are the Knights of Luna. and this shows up in the From the Ashes box set. And basically, the Knights of Luna is it's almost not even an order of chivalry, because it's almost like a secret society within Selene that's opposed to the Queen's policy of isolationism, and because we don't hear of them ever before the wars, I think the implication is that they were formed as a sort of response to the fact that Selene has been neutral while all this stuff is going on. Evil is on the rise everywhere around them, and the Queen is adamant in her isolationism. And then you have this quasi-secret society. They're the ones who form the embassy to the city of Greyhawk. They're in the Queen's court, and they're kind of subverting things and trying to get the court on their side to be more interventionist. Especially when we have things like Torosh Mak and the Empire of the Pomarge, obviously the rise of Ayuz, the conquest of Sterich, where by the giants and so forth. There's all these bad things happening, and Selene kind of stays on the sidelines, and the Knights of Luna want to change that. So I'm almost at the point where I would say that the Knights of Luna is really more like an affectation rather than an official order of knighthood in Selene. Kind of like the Knights of Pythias or something like that, to use a modern example. So, but they're a fascinating thing, and their existence, if you're doing something post-wars, is very opens up a whole lot of really great ideas and things for political intrigue in and around Selene. You could have loyalist factions and the Knights of Luna, and obviously the outside states want to influence things one way or the other. So there's a lot of opportunity there, I think, when you have those kinds of divisions for really neat game stuff. Now, like I say, there are a lot of other ones. I'm sort of trying to focus on the ones here and related to the ones in the guide. They're the demonic Knights of Doom, who are basically the commanders of the Overking's guard. There's a whole bunch of them. A lot of them especially come from that Living Greyhawk Gazetteer. So, to my mind, they're kind of in their own continuity, unless they're building on something that was found elsewhere. But I really enjoy the Orders of Knighthood idea. I think it gives a lot of things, a lot of opportunities for the players, and a lot of opportunities for the DM to establish these kinds of networks of NPCs. If you're friendly or you're deemed to be owed a favor by, say, the Knights of the Hart, then that gives you opportunities and kind of a network of support that you can work in naturally, rather than having it feel dropped in out of nowhere. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments, have you ever used these Order of Knighthoods or any of the other ones that are mentioned later on? I'd love to hear your experiences. Obviously, I know there's a ton that mentioned in various sources that I didn't touch on here today. I just wanted to hit the major ones from the earlier sources, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hope you're doing well, and stay safe from Pinkertons. Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.